Welcome back to the Real Power Podcast. I am very, very excited for the guests that we have in the studio today. We have my good friend, because we just said we're friends now, Georgiou Graham. Agathi is a trailblazer, not only in the Rochester wedding scene, but in what it takes to create spaces for young women to thrive. With a keen eye towards business development, she turned her boutique event planning business into a 7-figure, women-owned and run empire consisting of 3 event venues: Arbor Loft, Arbor at the Port, and Arbor Midtown. 2 catering companies, Folk and Fair, and the small business that started it all, Agathi and Company. Agathi has consistently dedicated herself to giving women a space to shine in the male-dominated hospitality industry to deliver top-notch service to thousands of brides, nonprofit organizations, and businesses around Rochester. What started as just herself and one other employee quickly grew to a company of over 50 people, now 80, she was telling me.
Yeah.
Where women make up 70% of all jobs and 100% of upper level management positions. This show, I can already tell there's big energy in the room right now. It's going to be a good one. I won't waste any more time. We'll jump right into it. Agathi, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. This is so much fun already.
Take it back for the audience to the beginning of your journey. I know we were talking a little off camera. Wherever you want to start in your story, where does entrepreneurship begin for you?
Just this past weekend, my mother gave me a big box from her, like my parents' basement. And she's like, this has been down here for years. You need to take it. So I finally took it home and I was looking through it and I found this little sheet of like a little slip of paper and it gave a prediction of what my life would be like in 10 years.
Yeah.
And it had a bunch of things that didn't make any sense. But the one thing that did, it said, I want to own a business and I want to tell people what to do.
Love that.
I was like, that is so ballsy to say at 18, but here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, yeah.
So I think it started then. I don't think I really bloomed. I don't think, because I was very shy. Surprisingly, my mother told me this just recently. In elementary school and middle school and even some of high school, I was a little bit more shy and conservative and to myself. And then I really broke out of my shell in college. My sisters tell me it was when people couldn't tell me what to do anymore. And I was like, world,
Freedom.
here I am.
Yeah.
But I went to school, I got my degree, worked in the corporate world for a little while, realized that I really had a hard time with people telling me what to do.
Similar to me.
Yeah. It was also not that I didn't think they were fantastic people. I had some great mentors. I just felt like I was limited to what I could do because of the job or the circumstance. So I remember it was 2008. It was the recession that hit the country.
Yeah.
It was the perfect time to like stop everything. I was living in Buffalo at the time, moved back home to Rochester and get my master's degree and really figure it out. I knew I wanted to open up an event planning business, but I knew I needed to take the time and really learn. So I went to SUNY Brockport and I got my master's in communications, and I learned so much about human interaction, about interpersonal communication. It was a life-changing for me, and it's absolutely the reason why I think that the businesses are as successful as they are. Another thing that this has always been a trait of mine. My husband says this is where, like, one of the traits of why he fell in love with me, bless his sweet soul, is that I've always been a little tenacious, like more tenacious than the average person. So I knew that I couldn't afford a master's degree, but I wanted one so badly. I started looking and researching local colleges and found that SUNY Brockport offered graduate assistantships. And if you get one of those, if you're lucky to get one of those, they'll pay full tuition. You'll get a small stipend, work on campus, and then you'll get full tuition. So I remember in my first interview to get into the program, I asked my advisor, I said, so what are my chances? He goes, they're small. Like, they offer a handful a semester. There's thousands of students. So I said, just please let me know if there's an opportunity. And a week later, there was an opportunity in their IT department. I don't know anything about IT, full disclosure, nothing. But I applied for it and I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I communicated my idea for that role. I was working in IT and I was essentially the middleman between the IT department developing and updating hardware and software and communicating what they were doing to the public, to students and faculty. And I just persuaded them that I was the perfect person for the role, and I got my master's paid for. So I've always been a little bit more ambitious, I think, or also outspoken, a little bit more Just if I have my mindset on something, I have to do it and it has to be perfect. I'm very competitive. It's funny. I'm not competitive. Like if we were to go play some darts, I don't give a shit who wins.
Okay.
But I need to be the best event coordinator or / wedding venue owner in Rochester.
In the world.
Yeah. But like, I'm a very competitive person. So after getting my master's and learning all that I did, I started my company, Agathi & Co. in 2011. And then I, at the time, knew that there were a lot of wedding planners in the industry, or in the market of Rochester, Buffalo, and Syracuse. So I started doing a lot of corporate planning. I was doing festival planning for Greentopia, for the Fringe Festival, for the Lilac Festival. I helped plan a Guinness Book of World Record for the Lilac Festival, which is one of the most epic things I've ever done. And something that like was very out of my norm. Because it's very much like a logistics job. Like, can you logistically plan a way to get 3,000 people into this flower, this like shape of a flower in a big field, and get it? And it had to be timed for like, I don't even remember, like 25 minutes.
Okay.
And it had to be very structured and very on point. And they all were wearing like bags that were the color of the flower, which was a lilac. So it was like me being a drill sergeant on the floor, getting people in where they needed to be. And it's not typically an event. It's not an event, but I guess it is an event in a sense. I had to plan it with a time limit. So
did they do it?
Yeah, we got it. By like, it was an insane day in May. I think it was like 95 degrees out that day.
Oh shit.
Luckily, when my parents came, they got the VIP treatment and they were the STEM. So like they just got to slide in while the rest of them are toasting out there with their purple and pink ponchos.
That's
but
funny, yeah.
I digress. So I planned a lot of different types of events. And with that experience, I learned that hauling my things everywhere was so exhausting. Having to be on site somewhere, working with teams that I'm not necessarily not comfortable with, but just not, acquainted with. And I was searching and seeking a venue for about a year or two before I found Arbor Loft. And then I was planning this grand event on the High Falls Bridge.
Yep.
I'm going to botch what it's really called, so I'm going to avoid
Isn't that what it's called? The High Falls Bridge?
It's like Ponte something.
No,
but
I have no idea.
It's neither here nor there. But so I planned a big event there, and I met a gentleman by the name of Glenn Kellogg. He was the old landlord of the building, and he started Hart's Grocers.
Yes, R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. I loved Hart's.
Yeah.
And so he told me about this old vacant warehouse space in his building, and I immediately went to see it. And I told him that was it. I wanted it for Arbor Loft. I didn't know it was called Arbor Loft. I wanted to open up a venue. Mm-hmm. And he said no.
He said no?
Yeah. And I said, well, why? And he's like, I think it's just too risky. And so I just followed him around and persuaded him for like 6 months. I kid you not. If I called him today, he would say, oh, yeah, that's Athi.
She just wouldn't leave me alone.
I didn't leave him alone. I called him like every other day, and I pitched him idea after idea after idea. And then he finally signed March of 2016. And I renovated it, and we opened in July of 2016, all while developing a relationship with my husband, who is my co-pilot, co-partner, love of my life, best friend. And when we met in 2015, I had hinted to him, like, I have this business. I've never had a partner before, but you're really amazing at what you do. Maybe we can like join forces in some capacity. And then we essentially opened up the Arbor Loft together. So.
And here we are. All right. Well, there's so much that I want to get into, so we'll cover as much as we can in this hour. But you guys have been able to build, I would say, one of the most iconic wedding venues in Rochester.
Thank you, friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Arbor at the Port being one of them, which my wife and I got married at. Great venue. What is it about these venues that you think you did differently to just make them stand out and make them so successful in what they are today?
Great question. I think that I really hit the market at the right time when I was starting my business and looking at venues to have events, they were all either country clubs or hotels. The only, I'd say, individually owned event venue in Rochester at that time was Studio 180 on St. Paul, RIP. And I loved it there. I just thought it was so gorgeous and different and unique. And I just started digging into research and realizing that there were boutique wedding venues everywhere but Rochester. They were popping up even in Buffalo. So I knew, again, just based on trends, and it's not hard to do. It's just take some time to research and find the data. And because of grad school, I loved research.
Yeah.
Surprisingly. Isn't that a strange thing? So I love the research. I know it's, I mean, I don't love it as much anymore, but at the time I was digging into it and realizing, wow, there's really a market for this. So between, you know, wood floors, white walls, exposed beams, our couples could be so creative and develop their brand or develop the theme of their wedding any which way they want. And Arbor Loft was really just sort of at the cusp of like other venues opening up in Rochester that could do the same thing. Yeah. So that's, I think, what sold it for people was like, wow, we can really do whatever we want. And it's unique and it's different. And we're the first ones to get married here. And that's really cool. And then I loved it so much. I said to my husband, I said, I think I'm ready for baby number 2. And then we found Arbor at the Port. And for those listening that are familiar with the Fast Ferry, RIP, that was a huge success until it wasn't. And it closed down. And it's what's eerie about the space is when I had my first showing and was looking around, it was like a ghost town there. It was like coffee mugs were still at the desks. It was just crazy. The conveyor belts were still up and not running, but there.
Yeah.
And I knew immediately with that view and those big windows and those massive ceilings, like I knew that we could make it into something really special. So that's how that came about. Yeah. And then Arbor Midtown has its own insane story.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I just wanted to start there because I see you guys all over social media. The brand that you've created for yourself is truly something. It's very inspiring what you've done.
Thank you.
So I think for younger entrepreneurs maybe listening who want to start something similar to you, maybe they're interested in event planning, owning wedding venues. Like what would be your advice to that young person who maybe wants to follow in the footsteps of what you've done, like to get their start, to get traction in the beginning? Like, what advice do you have for them?
I've always lived by this semi-cheesy motto, and it's hustle and heart will set you apart. And I started it way back when. And it's that hustle that got me to where I am today. I find that people expect it to be easy or expect it to happen and you happen to just be successful right away. It doesn't work that way. I tell people that I ate shit for like 5 years before I made a solid living for myself. And another thing that people don't know is I lived in Buffalo from 20 to 25. And then I moved home to my childhood bedroom until I was 31 years old.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Now, that's very cultural. I'm Greek. And so my parents were like, you can live here forever.
Come on in.
And the other side of it was like, I knew I needed to save money. And when I opened up the Arbor Loft, I did it with like a $2,000 and a small bank loan. And I didn't tell anybody. Like I obviously didn't tell my clients or, you know, I didn't tell, like the bank knew because I'm going to do a shout out to my guy, Vic Mancini is his name. Yeah. And he called M&T and he's like, I'm vouching for this girl. She will pay it back. I know she doesn't have a lot of credit. I know she doesn't have a lot of money in the bank, but I promise you she'll pay it back. And within 6 months, I paid it back.
Why did he do that? Why did he believe in you think?
I don't know. He was born and raised in Chile. I'm from Chile. And I played soccer with his kids and he knew my dad and it was very like hometown. And I wrote up my business plan and I sat down and I presented it and I was very nervous because it was creating a business plan and breaking down the numbers. It's not easy stuff.
No.
I was put in a very vulnerable situation because I don't do well when I'm not the best at something. So I was vulnerable about even presenting it. And I was like, these are the numbers I'm predicting based on what I've done in the past and what I've seen and quotes I've given. And anyway, and he's like, I really believe in this. I really think this is something special. And that's why forever and ever, I'll never leave M&T because they believed in me.
Wow.
I know, I'm like a poster child for that bank. So that Vic Mancini believed in me, and he gave me a chance, and I lived at home and I saved, and I didn't move out until after I got engaged.
Wow.
And my husband was like, all right, honey, it's time now. I'm like, no, it's so nice here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how it sort of, I really hustled.
Yeah.
I really, to get back to the question, I really hustled. I worked 24/7, 365. I answered emails at all hours of the night and drafted them, and like purposely would like schedule to send them out at 8 a.m. so I didn't look like a psychopath. Like I just did everything I could to prove to not only myself, but to everybody that this was going to be something epic. And to my very traditional Greek parents, they were like, what is this event planning business you're starting? And also, what event venue are you? Like, they had no idea.
Yeah, they didn't see the vision.
They didn't see the vision at all. Now they understand, and they're so proud, and I'm so thankful. But I had their help. I had their security. I had the foundation of my family to help me succeed. And I think that foundation, plus having just, I don't know, I had a lot of energy back then too. I was 27, 28, almost 30. I just had the energy to really push and push and push, and hopefully I will exceed expectation.
Yeah. Well, I love it because hustle is required. Like no matter what you're doing as an entrepreneur, there is going to be, I call it a season of your life where you're just going nonstop, and you have to make sacrifices too. Like there's so many things that you have to choose. Like you either enjoy, let's say you're in your 20s, like enjoy life in your 20s as a normal 20-year-old, or you're taking this other path where it requires so much time and energy and focus from you to get that thing going. And I was in that phase still am in that phase from 2020 to now. And I can tell you personally, it takes more than you realize to get things going. And I think with social media these days, there's not enough transparency as to like what being an entrepreneur actually is. Everyone sees the highlight reel.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's so important, like you shedding the light on what it took in those early years, having that little amount of money in your bank account, staying up late hours of the night working. Like that is the reality of making it. Like you have to do that.
And the hardest part with people is they don't have the patience. So they'll go into something for maybe a year or two and they'll realize like, wow, like this really isn't working. You really just have to stick it out. Yeah. Because it takes a bit longer than that. And for me, I realized things had taken a turn once I honestly started the venue. Everything that I did in the realm of event planning and working for other people, it was great and all, but it was 100 times more exhausting than I wanted it to be. Yeah. And I knew that wasn't my forever job. And I have a lot of event planners reach out to me and ask me like, how did you do it? Like, how do you pull through? And everyone's journey is different. Not everyone wants to own a wedding venue, but for event planners, it really is a niche market, and you really have to have that energy. And I said this to you off camera, like what you're doing is incredible, and you're shedding light on the struggles and the challenges, as well as hyping people up and congratulating them for their successes. This is a genius idea.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Let's talk about like the growth of your business. What skill do you think you have that has really been able to move the needle forward for you?
My problem solving.
Talk about
1,000%. I have a knack for finding loopholes to things. I'm really big about, like, our clients are obviously our most important people. So if there's an event that isn't going as planned, or maybe you're off the timeline or something happens, I'm very quick to find solutions to things that maybe normal people wouldn't have those brain cells. I don't know. Zach, who is such a amazing human and my hype guy, because he's like, no, Athi, you don't understand. You have that knack for it. And like most people don't. I also have like an aggressiveness about certain things. Like, do you ever meet with a client, or not even client, but like other people that you work with, and they're like, well, we know there's an issue with this. Let's discuss it on Tuesday. I'd say it's pretty urgent. Let's handle it. And you're like, why would we wait till Tuesday? Call me right now.
Let's do it right now.
Let's solve the problem. Like, you're not going to, like, I lack patience in waiting for things when I know that I can do them faster, better, more efficiently.
Got it.
Marketing, sales, finances is Zach's domain.
Got it. Okay.
Client facing, like
Customer service,
like client experience.
Yeah.
And like logistics and execution is 1000% my domain, and like the branding.
Yeah.
And the reason, so we do completely separate things, which is how
that's the perfect combo.
It's amazing. And those are his strengths. And again, he's the math guy, and he's just a logical thinker. And I'm a little bit more like on the creative. Like I design the venues. I work with our team in making sure that our clients are 1000% taken care of. We have a wedding planner. She's our director of client relations. She's been with us now for like 6 years. Her name is Erica. She is like the epitome of sunshine.
I think we met Erica too.
I would imagine you did, because it's Erica and Carly.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, Carly initially was assisting with Erica. Carly was your wedding planner.
Yep.
And then Carly was so incredible. I was like, go on your own, girl, do it. And now she's even more amazing. But Erica is our face and our personality. She is the Arbor personality. She exudes happiness and love and graciousness. And she has helped me create the brand of Arbor Venues.
How do you find these people?
Oh God, they find me.
That's a big point right there. Why are they finding you, do you think?
I think initially Arbor Loft was so cool and trendy that it was like, again, smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Like, it looked like a cool place to work, and this is a young couple, and then they got into it and they were like, damn, this is a lot of work. And it is. It's a lot of work. But if you have a passion for making people happy and creating their happily ever afters, like, this is your jam. So most people in the upper management positions have somehow found us, whether it's being recommended by someone else, or like once in a while we'll put out like an Indeed or a something on our social media, and we'll get some pretty amazing people back from it. But yeah, my job is essentially putting out the fires.
I can relate to that. You're the last wall of defense as the CEO, whatever you want to call yourself.
Yeah.
And like, you get to do the things that the rest of the team doesn't have to do because they don't own the business. They didn't take the risk. They have their own jobs, and it's not always fun, but those are the things you have to do.
And we've had some pretty gnarly things happen to us at our venues that I've had to troubleshoot and figure out.
What's the gnarliest?
One of our brides from way back when, her mother was very anxious, and before the ceremony, God, this is awful, she peed herself. And she didn't have time to go back to the hotel and get changed and the whole thing. So I MacGyvered. It's funny about this new generation. Like, when I say MacGyvered, they have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
So I hope you understand what MacGyvered means.
Yeah.
I finagled a way to like pin her dress, get her down the aisle, get her through that 5-minute ceremony, and then ship her the hell out. And nobody even knew what was going on. It was just her and I didn't involve the bride. It was I kept it very private. And another thing that happens, well, thank God, I'm going to miss the Arbor Loft. Arbor Loft is my baby, but I'm excited about our new location, which we'll talk about, because Arbor Loft is on the second floor, and we always have to depend on an elevator. Yeah. And this elevator, I'm telling you, I've never seen such a shitty. It's the shittiest of elevators. No, it's just, it doesn't work as well as I'd like it to. It breaks down more often than I'd like. And the people at Schindler know my name. Like, I call and I'm like, it's me again. How often can you get a technician over? And So the hardest part is when that elevator is not working and you have a few people in wheelchairs that can't get up the stairs.
Yeah.
It is heartbreaking. I'll be in the middle of dinner and I'll get a call from one of my coordinators and they're like, it's not working. And there are 3 grandparents on their way. Like, what do you even do in a situation like that?
Gotta carry them up. I don't know.
You carry them up. You take some strapping young men and you carry them up. And then I sent this happened in one specific time I remember. The couple was mortified. They were like, I can't believe. And I'm like, I promise to fix this. Just enjoy the night. I promise I'll fix this. I sent one of my valet attendants to Wegmans and I had them grab all the flowers they had, like $150 worth of flowers. And I made my own private, like my bouquets, and I gave them to each person that was handicapped, that we had to climb up, we had to carry up the stairs, and with a handmade card and chocolates. And I said, I am so sorry. And I apologize if you're embarrassed. I want you to know that you're the VIPs of the night. You have a designated server for you and only you if you need anything at all. And I also promise that this elevator will be fixed by the time you leave.
That's the kind of stuff that now I realize why you're as successful as you are, because that is the customer service that people never forget and makes them want to tell everybody about their experience. And that's what I feel like is missing these days. Not missing, but not enough people put that emphasis on treating your customers, the people you work with, at that level. Like, I'm going to do everything I can to make your life better, easier. If you have that in you as an entrepreneur, and I think I do too. I think customer service is one of my superpowers, call it.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning, like I treated every single client we had like it was our only client. I'm like, if we lose this client, we're done. Like if you have that mentality across hundreds and hundreds of clients, that's how you grow so fast, because people feel like that they're the most important person in the world.
For sure.
So like, I think sales, marketing, like all these tactics to try to get business, that's great. At the end of the day, like being a good human being and doing right by people and just focusing so much on that customer experience is, in my opinion, what separates you from the rest.
Thank you. I think that it's part of my competitiveness. Like I truly feel like when you do something nice to someone, you'll get it back.
Comes back.
But it's the competitiveness of, I want to be the best and I want to be an example for other venue owners in Rochester that maybe they could maybe step up their game a little bit, or maybe they're realizing that they're not hitting the mark here, and here, and this is how they could be better. And then at the end of the day, some just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And it shows, and that it's easier for us to get business when the other guys just aren't answering calls or. So I think I appreciate you saying that. And I think, again, I can tell you that I was just raised very well. Like my parents did an amazing job with my sisters and I. They taught us to have respect for others and to be kind and gracious, and that it'll come back. And for me, that's the whole goal of having a wedding. Like, not everything is going to be perfect. I'm sure you can think of some hiccups on your day.
Yeah. My wife was actually,
I'm excited to hear.
Walking down the aisle and her veil.
I knew it. It got caught, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you hear this story? Or?
No, some of them get caught.
Okay.
And I try really hard to sand it down.
Yep. So she was a freaking boss ass bitch. She just throws it off of her like nothing happens and
just kept
walks
walking
beautifully down the aisle. And afterwards we're like, what happened? She's like, it got caught on the thing and they were trying to get it off, but she's like, no, fuck this. And
good for her. She's a badass bitch.
She
good
is.
for her.
But yeah, things go wrong, right? And
yeah.
you can't expect your wedding to go perfect. There's going to be things and you just roll with the punches.
But you better believe the first time that happened, we added on our closing list, you better sand that stuff down because it's not technically our property, but we take very good care of it. So it's get down there and sand it down or do whatever you need to do to make sure it's. So my girlfriend Amber just got married in September. And I called on my staff. I'm like, you better have checked that aisle out. They're like, we did. She'll be fine. And she was fine. She got down the aisle with her grand, gorgeous veil and all is well. But yes, it takes one time for that to happen. And I'm like, we need to change it. We need to fix it.
Yeah. Well, that's the mentality that I can't imagine business owners who don't do that. They're just whatever.
But my girls are the same way. they're like, if we don't make this amazing for them, like, what's the point?
What's the point?
Right.
Exactly.
Same with corporate clients, nonprofits that are raising money for incredible things like, cure for childhood cancer. Like that event better be flawless because they need to raise every cent. Or Willow, or we do a lot of events for U of R. We do a lot of like people that are doing way more incredible things than us, that are raising money for bigger causes. Like,
yeah, it's like the least we can do is make sure the event.
The least we can do is make this epic for you.
So you've grown a company to 80 plus people now, which is insane. Like,
I know.
Crazy. Like, how did we get here?
I don't know.
What have you learned about managing people and leadership and just leading the charge?
I've learned that I still have learning to do. I've learned that I don't know all the answers, and I'm very transparent about that. Like, I'm also figuring it out as I go. I love educating myself. I'm actually in the middle of taking a leadership course, and I'm on week 6. It's specific. It's geared towards women. It's called the Good Life Institute. It's it's a cheesy name, but the woman who started it with her husband, and he helped create the curriculum for this course. And it essentially helps you with more balance, and it puts things in perspective. And it has for me, because I was having a hard time shutting it off at certain times of the night.
Yep.
And I wasn't being and I felt like I wasn't being a good enough mother or a good enough wife. And that balance is tricky because there was no balance for the first 5 years, 6 years, 8 years of my company. And now that we have a family and our dog and my sisters and their significant others and the nephews and my extended family, like there are people that I want to be around and really give my undivided attention.
Be present, yeah.
And that balance was really hard for me to find. So I will admit I've absolutely had my burnouts where I'm like, I need to take a beat for a week or two. And this past quote unquote burnout was just like Arbor Midtown was a beast to open, and it was exhausting for me because I was away from my family more than I wanted to be. And I realized that I needed to find more balance, and I needed to be more accepting of things that I wasn't willing to accept before. Because again, I'm a little bit of a hard head. I'm a little bit more competitive than the average person. So I have to, now that I know that, I have to like reel it in a little bit and be like, okay, Agathi, it's going to be okay. If everything's not perfect,
yep,
it's going to be okay. But I'm really open with my staff, especially my full-timers. 99% of us are women. We just hired a man, and God bless him.
I was gonna say.
Is working. He's doing great. But there's a lot of estrogen in the room, and my husband has a hard time with it too. He's like,
I'm sure he
sometimes
does.
I just want to hang out with a bunch of dudes, and like I'm surrounded by women all day.
Tell him he's welcome anytime because we're all guys over here. So
he would love it here. And I'm transparent with the girls. I'm like, today is an off day. I'm overwhelmed by a million questions you're throwing at me, and I don't know all the answers today. But I'll do my best to have answers to you by tomorrow, or even teaching them how to manage their staff. So at this point now, we have my husband and I at the top, and then we have directors, and then we have managers, and then we have servers and bartenders, and then we have dishwashers, cleaners, setup people. So like if I'm getting a call from a dishwasher, there's a problem. There's a problem in the hierarchy here. Like we need to be better about communicating, because old Agathi would just answer the phone and solve the problem. But now I'm learning through my education that it has to go through the right channels in order for people to be more respectful of my time. And again, that's been hard for me because I just like to
it is.
put out the fire.
You just fix it, right?
Like
Fix it.
if there's no dishwasher, I've done some crazy things to find dishwashers. I'll like drive to the local like car wash. I'll be like, hey, anybody here work until what time do you get out of work, sir?
I saw you just had a post. You needed like an overnight worker.
Yeah, we actually got some great people out of that post.
Nice.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we flip the events overnight. And if we have triple headers back to back to back, like we need people.
You need bodies. Yeah.
Yeah. People are at our venues pretty much 24/7 now. It's nuts.
It's a good problem to have.
It's a blessing.
Yeah, I just love the point about like leadership is just a constant evolution of like trying to be better. Like you're never done learning how to be a good leader. And I learned that from many people who have been sitting across from me. Leadership is something that leadership is different from management. I learned this from, I had Ray Isaac on the show from Isaac Keating.
Yeah.
And so he was saying like managers are like processes, like systems, like that's managing. Leading is like actually knowing people, like you said, like knowing how people work, knowing that there's different personalities, how to communicate with certain people, how to build leaders underneath you. Like you were just saying, there's all these skills, and leadership is something I'm super passionate about, like the most, because like I was telling you, I want to eventually scale myself out of this business. And in order to do that, I need a team that can lead the business. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate enough where like my brother was my first hire. His best friend was my second hire. Like they're running the ship right now already without me, which is so cool to see. But pouring into the people who are under you and building leaders out of them is a skill in and of itself, really.
It's finding great people, which I'm thankful to say in our leadership team, we have amazing humans. Something that I learned in grad school, once I graduated, I had a chat with one of my favorite professors, Dr. Chesbrough, and he said, Athi, you're one of the 10%. I'm like, what do you mean one of the 10%? And I'm going to say this to you because you're one of the 10%. You can read the room. You're good about assessing the situation and like not overthinking or over talking, or like there's a certain personality that can just read the room. And not too many people have that quality. And most people in leadership do. They can assess when something is too much or too little. They can assess if they're talking too much or too little. They know how to change the subject. They know how to persuade you into thinking something else. Like they have like this dynamic
almost like
communication
you're orchestrating.
skill. Yeah, it's like it really is like you're orchestrating your way of communicating something to someone else in your way without realizing you're sort of manipulating the other person.
Yeah. And it's not manipulating in like a malicious way at all. It's just how my brain works. It's how your brain works.
It's very Machiavellian of you. It's very like, you're not trying to be persuasive or manipulate something in a negative way. Your leadership skills are teaching you that you can orchestrate your communication to get what you need out of your team or your co-host or whoever.
Well, thank you for that. I've never really thought about it too much about why I am the way I am. And it's something I've actually been wanting to take personality tests, which it's on my list of things to do. But the more you can figure yourself out and be like self-aware, like who I am, why I tick the way I do, the people who can figure themselves out, I think go the farthest in life. It's just one big game of self-awareness, not doing things that you shouldn't be doing, leaning into the things that you're good at.
I'm fascinated by all that.
Yeah, me too.
Because I love learning about why people tick and how they communicate or how they approach certain things. Or I also have a very strong foundation at home. Like my husband and I truly believe, I'm taking a shift. God makes everybody different. And it's interesting to meet people and to dive into them a little bit and to, people are like onions, right? They you kind of have to get to know them a little bit to understand how they tick, but God makes everybody so different. And some people are not in the 10%. And then you're like, I don't understand why you think the way that you do.
Yeah.
Or I don't understand why you're complaining about, I'm talking clients. Like, I don't understand why you're complaining about that. How did this happen? And why are you blaming me for that inconvenience? I wondered if you had thought in the 10%, you could conceptualize it differently, or your perspective would be a little bit different. I may be having a hard time explaining it without being too forward.
Right.
But like everyone is so different. And what I'm learning in managing people is that there are certain people that can be in leadership roles, and there's a small percentage of them. And then the rest of them are the rest. And that's okay. someone like my older sister, she is the boss of me. My sisters are my best friends. My older sister is a school teacher. She's a Spanish teacher at Fairport, and she is so brilliant. But she could never be this type of leader. She is book smart. She is so smart. And what I mean is that she's the boss of me. She tells me what to do. Like, she'll call me on the way home from work and she's like, I'm feeling like pizza tonight. Could you order the pizza? And like, without a doubt, I'm like, okay, how many? What do you want? Da, 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 da. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, she is the boss of me. And my little sister is creative. She's a designer. She's like, she's in marketing. Always has like grand ideas. She's another brilliant human in her own way, but taking on leadership roles, and when you have that creative mind, can sometimes be really overwhelming. So she's constantly asking me ideas and like, how do I approach this? How do I feel comfortable? Like, I don't feel comfortable with this approach. Maybe I can approach it in this way. And we just have different ways of thinking. It doesn't mean that her thinking is bad or wrong. It's not. She is so creative and a genius in her own way. Mm-hmm. We just communicate differently.
Yeah, I love
Our
that.
brains are just wired a little differently.
It's something I've like recently thought more and more about, because I think growing up as like a kid, you just think that everyone sees the world like you do.
Uh-huh.
But then you grow up and you're like, whoa, people are different. My own team here, like some of the ways that I think and approach problems they see it in a totally different way. And sometimes they're right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not always right. Just knowing that humans are so diverse and complex and our brains operate in different ways. Again, it's something that fascinates me too. Psychology, philosophy, like understanding humans.
Like when you met your wife.
Yeah.
Even at 18, I don't think you had the capacity to know that she would be your wife. Like, you didn't know. You just thought she's beautiful. Mm-hmm. We have great conversation. Mm-hmm. And until you realized that you wanted to spend the rest of your life with her, you were like, we're on the same wavelength.
Exactly.
Mentally, philosophically,
mm-hmm.
like mind, body, soul.
Yeah.
And I always told my mother, I feel like I'm going to be single forever because I don't think I can meet a man. I'll never meet a man that can handle me and handle like what's up here.
Yeah.
He's got to be like way smarter than me. And Zach is brilliant. Zach is so smart. We'll get into arguments and then he'll start using big words. I'm like, damn you and your big words, Zach. I don't know what that word means. I have to like look it up. So now the argument's over. Like, you know, he's a smart man. And he has that, like, he can just, I don't know. He's just smart. But you knew your wife was incredible because you got to know her. And you were like, wow, she's a different thinker.
Yeah, I mean, she
can keep up with me.
She's beautiful. Like, that's great. But then her mind and the way she treats people, she's the kindest human on earth. And her ability to work with young kids, she works with like special needs kids.
Oh,
like, it takes
an angel.
Very special person to be able to do what she does. And she's so good at it. And she's so passionate about it too.
Yeah.
Something that I will never like truly understand, like how she has the patience to do, and then she has to come home to me, who's like another child.
Right.
So God bless her.
That's so sweet. So you also worked with Jazz, one of the coordinators at the port.
Yes, I think we did. Yes, she was there on our wedding, I believe.
Yeah, she's amazing too.
So bad I should know.
No,
all
it's
these
okay.
names,
it was a busy day for you.
Yeah, there was a lot going on.
Yeah, a lot going on.
Do you have any tips on how to, because if there's other husband, wife, couple entrepreneurs watching, how you guys manage your relationship, because you have to play two roles, right? Mm-hmm. Business partners and partners. Any advice on how to navigate that? What advice do you have for people who might be in the same situation?
That's another great question, because we talk about this often. We made a promise to never put down the other person in front of our team. Even if we disagree, we are going to pretend like we agree, and we will discuss it at a later date because we are a unified front. And that's important that we keep that up. The other thing is that we really took the time to create job descriptions for each of us that were complete opposite, because we knew we would be with each other all day, every day, and we needed to do different things. If we felt like we were doing the same thing and we were sort of on top of each other, there would be conflict because you want something to be your own, right? And I knew that like marketing, sales, like that's his jam. He loves it. He really dives into it, and he does an incredible job. And he knew that for me, customer service and that client experience and loving on those couples was important to me. So like it really worked out organically, but this is something I'm still working on. When we get home from work, whether it be 4 or 5 o'clock, we put a lot of effort into putting our phones down and being with our family, having a home cooked meal, being with our daughter and our dog, and seeing our extended family, and just being present and not talking about work. It's sort of funny. Some of our employees, especially in our leadership roles, were like, well, don't you talk, like, I'll mention something to them, and then the next day, like Zach will maybe bring up the same point, and they're like, do you guys talk to each other? Like, you just said this to me yesterday.
Oh, when we get home, we don't.
And I'm like, listen, after 4 o'clock, we don't. We talk about other things, because if we always talked about work, what would be our relationship?
Yeah.
We also love taking date nights. We're both foodies. We love good food, good company, and we love just spending time with it. We're so cheesy. Like, some people love the company of others and having like big parties or big gatherings at other people's homes. We're very private, and we love just spending time with our significant others, just the two of us.
Love that.
We have way more fun just us spending time together. And we'll still do excursions. We'll go out to concerts. We'll take the baby and go to like Wickham Farms and do fun things like that. But like, we take the time to do things together. And I don't know, I just feel like God put us together for a reason. He says he's never, and he's also met a lot of people in his lifetime. He's never met somebody like me. And I've never met somebody like Zach. He's dynamic.
That's a beautiful thing. Just great relationship advice too, for like people who are entrepreneurs and ambitious, and like separating that work and home life. Do you find it difficult sometimes when you're home to not talk about business?
For sure. And I think that we've had, there's seasons of it. So sometimes we don't have a choice. We have to talk about it. And then other times, like now, we're in October, busiest month of the year. We're probably going to talk about work a little bit more. Yeah. But like once the holidays come, we're going to be like,
slows down.
Things slow down a little bit. We're in the holiday season. It's just about our family. And honestly, I'm so obsessed with my daughter. Her name is Anastasia. Today was picture day. She I hype her up for it. So she's like, we got to do my hair a certain way. We got to do that. And like, get more excited about her excitement and her picture day than anything going on with Arbor Venues.
Love that.
Like, it's funny how things sort of shift because you want to find that balance in life and with work. And I'm thankful that I'm getting to that point, but I'll admit that it's taken me a long time to get here. And that's just the growing pains of owning a business and it becoming as successful as it has. I thank God every day for that. But I also know the importance of the balance and having time for your family. And my relationship with Zach is so important because that's the glue to the business. Imagine having that conversation with your lawyers. Like, so you're in a partnership with your husband. God forbid it weren't to work out. Like, what are those conversations going to look like?
Yeah.
And like, we were both engaged, like madly in love. Like, we don't want to have these conversations, but we knew we had to. But we also vowed we'd never be there. We would always put each other first. And he does. He puts me first for just about everything. So, and I do the same. So I think just the foundation of your relationship and keeping up with that, being consistent.
Yeah.
And it helps that tells me how much he loves me like 100 times a day. I'm like, tell me again. How do you feel about me today? He's like,
Words
I love you so
of
much.
affirmation.
Yeah, exactly. It's my love language.
Thank you so much for being here today. This has been a great conversation for me. Like, even if the cameras were off, just, relating to you on an entrepreneur level and seeing that how much we have in common with our 10%.
You say that to all the 46 guests.
That's right. I do. You'll have to go back and watch and see if I do.
Exactly.
Goals for the future. Where's Arbor and everything else you're doing? Where's all this going? What does the next 5, 10, 20 years look like for you? And I know it's a big question, but like, What's the vision?
I could see it going in a few directions. I think for Zach and I, they're different. Zach's really interested in real estate.
Oh, yeah?
And so I think he might start looking into expanding a portfolio in that arena. I'm interested in getting back to my roots a little bit and teaching. I was an adjunct professor at SUNY Brockport, and I loved teaching. So a part of me would love to go back into just taking it easy and teaching a course a semester. Selfishly, it also helps me find really good quality students.
Talent, yeah. Yeah.
And 5 to 10 years, I'd say I'd open up 5 more venues, but absolutely not. I love having 3. I think it's a good, comfortable position to be in. I could see myself creating like a business where I maybe fly to different parts of the country and help other people build out their wedding venues. Like I have so much knowledge on how to do it and where things should be and how it should look and where things should go. And like, it's really all up here.
Yeah.
And trends are always changing and things are always changing, but I'm always keeping up with it. I'm very interested in that. But also just living life and enjoying being with our little family. And I always say, as long as my family is healthy and happy, nothing else matters.
That's all that matters.
No. So in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, if we're all here and we're all healthy and happy and everyone is, we're all together, then that's what matters.
That's a win. Yeah.
Doesn't matter what happens with work. It's just, it is what it is.
It's work. Exactly. Athi, thank you so much.
Thank
has been
you.
an honor to have you here. And I think a lot of people watching this will find it very valuable. There were a lot of gold nuggets in here. Parting piece of wisdom for that person watching in any venture that they pursue, any business they start. If you had to leave them with one thing today, based on your experiences, your journey with everything, what would that be?
Take that chance. Make the mistake. Learn from the mistake and continue to grow.
Amen.
What do you think of that?
That was perfect.
It reminds me of, did you ever watch The Magic School Bus? The bus driver, she always says like, take chances, make mistakes, get messy or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, take chances, make mistakes. Like that is like the epitome of what it's like to be a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
Just take the chance.
You're
going to make mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to learn from them and you're going to continue to grow. And as long as you have like a good head on your shoulders and good leadership skills, you're going to be just fine. Have some patience.
Mm-hmm.
Have some people to lean on. You're going to do great.
All right. Where can people connect with you? You want to plug your social media? Let's talk about Arbor Loft's relocation and end it on that.
So Arbor Loft is relocating. Our lease is up at our current location at 17 Pitkin at the end of January. So we'll be moving into, we're currently calling it Arbor Loft 2.0. It will be the new Arbor Loft right across the street on Union. And we're hoping to have a grand opening, hopefully by like March, April. In 2025. It's under construction at the moment, so that's a really exciting project. And you can follow along on social. We have Arbor Venues, Arbor Loft, Arbor at the Port, and we have Arbor Midtown. And you can connect with my 2 catering companies, Folk and
Which
Fair.
we didn't even talk about. I mean,
it's a whole other subdivision of life, and
yeah.
They kind of work on their own, and they're fantastic. And you can follow me personally at Agathi Girl. I've had the same tag for, 15 years. Same phone number since 2003.
Oh, yeah?
I got one of those like really cool, easy phone numbers that everyone misses and wishes they had. And arborvenues.com for more information.
Perfect. All right, guys, if you're getting married, you know where to do it.
Corporate event, call me.
I hope you found value in the show today. If you know a fellow entrepreneur who would benefit from the show, please share it with them. Shares help the show grow. Like I was telling Athi, this is my way of trying to put good into the world for entrepreneurs, real education. There's a lot of fluff out there, and these hour-long conversations with people who have done it, who have walked the walk, is the most valuable stuff that I wish I had right in the beginning of my journey too. So thank you as always for tuning in, guys. I appreciate you so much, and we'll catch you in the next one. Take care.